Yeah, it's like actually a little bit nervous about like moderate this panel because like I'm a DeFi degen and this is all about regulatory landscapes. But it's very important and it's very I would say a lot of information we need to get of that. So yeah. So without further ado, maybe Vishal, you can introduce yourself for a little bit because like first time in Taiwan, right?
It is.
Yeah, and then you've been talking to a lot of the bureaus, authorities all over the world, not just APAC as well as the Middle East, and maybe South Africa, right, Latin areas. So yeah, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Ivan. It's funny you categorize yourself as a degen, and I'm at the other end of the spectrum, right? So by default, I've been my professional career spans around a little over 20 years, with Binance for the last 3 years, heading up regional markets. But before that, I was a regulator in Abu Dhabi with the Abu Dhabi Global Markets, where I was heading up authorization and licensing for intermediaries, fund managers like yourself. I was heading up the sandbox for fintech, and I was part of the team that created the first crypto regulations globally. This is way back in 2018. Although I have been in crypto since 2018, I haven't exactly dabbled into trading and all that kind of stuff until once I got into Binance. So before that, I was actually in TradFi with the Bank of New York Mellon as well. And before that, I was actually in the education industry at the start of my career. So I spent time in education, then moved to TradFi, then moved to regulator, and now I'm here in crypto. And like you correctly said, working with regulators across the world, that's what I'm responsible for. I oversee our licensing strategies globally. We have about 20 licenses right now, spanning from Latin America, Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and ANZ down in Australia and New Zealand. And it's been a journey. It's been a journey speaking to multiple regulators, being an ex-regulator, having to defend ourselves within our own community first on why we want to regulate crypto, to now coming and meeting like-minded regulators globally or not. It really depends on which side of the spectrum they sit in.
Yeah, I mean, like across from different, I would say, regions as well as like different sectors, from private to public, right? But so I want to ask our audience a question first, in case you don't know. Anyone doesn't know Binance? Please raise your hand. Oh, wow. We still have one. I'm so surprised.
Good job, marketing team. Good job.
Yeah, but, Binance is the biggest, crypto exchanges in the world. The transaction value is probably like 10 times than the second one. So it's massive. Okay. So, yeah, like myself, even though I position myself as a DeFi degen, but, this is me to talk to investors, and this is me to talk to project founders, right? So different aspect. So like you, I want to ask, how do you like crypto? This industry in general, because a lot of smart people for sure, a lot of energies, and it's a lot of new tech. So new tech meaning a lot of you have to navigate in this new territory. And how do you navigate it? How do you like it?
Like you said, you have different personas for the people you speak to. Now, luckily for me, or unluckily for me, I only have to deal with the regulatory side of things. And I deal with a lot of suits. I deal with a lot of people who are more traditional in finance. And it's different for me to have a conversation with them as opposed to someone from some of my other teams. Because when you speak to the government, when you speak to regulators, they want to see someone across from the table who is part of that system before, who's understood the system, who's come from that system, as opposed to someone who's trying to build a new project. There's still a lot of trust issues between governments, regulators, and crypto industry. So you have to build that trust. And I think the industry in itself has done really well over the course. It's not just a Binance thing, but over the course of the last couple of years, the industry has done really well to build that trust with the regulators. And you can see that. You can see that expansion now across the world. Now, when you're talking to projects, a lot of projects, they don't understand the implications of what regulations will have on them. I mean, you look at regulations from a negative angle, or you can see it as a positive that gives your users or your investors the kind of confidence and comfort that this thing is protected. So that's from their angle as well. When you talk to them, they now begin to understand. Okay, fine. If I'm going to raise money, I need to do it the right way. I can't just do a pump and dump scheme online. There's some instances in the last couple of weeks where I think a 13-year-old kid did something crazy online during the recent run. So you want to make sure that these kind of projects are now regulated on regulated exchanges before they actually go out to the market.
Yeah, I mean, so we can see not just yourself, right? Among like Binance, for example, like Richard, the CEO of Binance, and then among the executives. So some of them come from public sectors.
Yep.
So I'm sure like lower the barrier to those authorities. I mean, make them comfortable, right?
Exactly.
Talking to you and talking to the industry. So. And what does that mean? I mean, what's the thinking behind like you guys joining Binance, to talk to authorities? What's the strategy?
So Richard, funnily enough, has been my boss for the last 9 years, almost a decade now. So when you leverage that kind of experience that Richard has, or the kind of experience that our compliance teams that we have on board currently have, it makes a huge difference because these are the same compliance teams who were either part of the crypto industry previously or they were senior positions in TradFi. Even if you look at our law enforcement teams, they're all part of Europol, Interpol, they're part of huge international investigation teams. So when these are the people that are picking up the phone and calling you or your government or your regulators up, you will answer that call and you will have that conversation with them because you, just out of pure respect, and you know the body of work that they represent over the course of their careers. So it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference for regulators, for governments to have that conversation with us because we are not just someone who's just walked off the street from a crypto company. We are people who have been in TradFi. We understand what regulations are. We understand the risks that crypto poses, and we're coming to you with solutions for that risk. So it's a different narrative as to what it was before, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, in Taiwan, like local market, I would say like the regulations and the rules comes pretty late. So finally and luckily, in this year, we are moving. Authorities are moving. Talking about like cryptocurrency custodies, and we roll out some I would say policies to abide by for industry players. So yeah, I mean, regulated and then have a rule is so essential and so important. So
it's not just that. I mean, you call it being late. Yeah. I'm calling it they've come to the party, and you take that as a win, because there are, in my mind, I always see regulators in three buckets, especially on the crypto industry side, right? And this is something that I saw when I was a regulator for fintech as well. There were three different buckets. The first bucket are the kind of regulators who don't understand technology, be it crypto, be it fintech, whatever it is. They don't understand technology, they don't understand the space, and they have an overwhelming fear of it. What they would do is a blanket ban. I'm not going to take names of countries, but there are some of them still out there that have a blanket ban on crypto. They don't want to license it, they don't want to regulate it, they don't care. So they're not offering any protection to the users of their jurisdiction, right? So that's the first bucket. The second bucket you would see are people like what Taiwan was before, or like what Europe was before, where they had a registration. You can do an AML registration with them, and that's about it. And they'll have a kind of a wait and watch approach. They see it, understand the industry, they understand the mechanisms the industry have, the risk approach that the industry does, the players in the market, how relevant they are and how compliant they are. And as they mature, then they will build a framework like what they just did a couple of weeks ago. They rolled out a framework, a new registration scheme, right? And the same thing in Europe. Initially, you just had an AML registration, and now you have MiCA coming in to kind of help them out. That's a full-fledged framework. Third bucket, you have countries like maybe the UAE, Bahrain, and some other countries out there that said, hey, we get it. We get the space. We understand it. We understand the technology. We're not scared by it. But we do want to provide that protection to the users of this space. So we created the framework and we rolled it out right from the get-go. There was no registration process. There was no AML process. AML and all were part of that overarching framework. So you have these three buckets, and in 2024, you saw the shifts in these buckets. A lot of people from the first bucket moved to the second bucket. From the second bucket, they moved to the third bucket. So you have that shift happening now in 2024, and those are the results, the great results you see at the start of the year. The ETFs being regulated, they're being approved, You have a lot more institutional players now in this game. Before, you would have been the only one of the few VCs in this game. There were a handful of VCs in the crypto space, and now everybody wants a part of it. And it's not just the VCs, it's your TradFi for asset managers who are coming to it. It's your sovereign wealth funds that have come into it. So now you have a huge plethora of institutional money coming in. That's the driver, one of the drivers behind the market right now.
Yeah, I mean, that could better stabilize Bitcoin price as well, right? So, yeah, I mean, like protection of users, especially those like general users, like retail users, is always the top priority of Binance, as I remember. And
Absolutely.
then also user experiences.
Yeah.
That's why, this priority maybe is the key to make Binance like so great right now, right? I guess. So actually, my next question would be, talking about industry, talking about Bitcoin. So what's your? It's somewhat about like market trends. What's your perspectives like down the road? For example, like Bitcoin price, and then just like how this industry or this market will move in the maybe next 1-2 years or 3 years.
I'm not going to provide financial advice on stage. There might be regulators around us, so I wouldn't do that anyway. So when it comes to how the industry is going to move ahead, I think we're still scratching the surface. I think there was a stat someone gave me at my previous event where they said the people out of the global population, only I think 1.5 or 2% currently own crypto. So that's a huge market that's untapped right now, right? So the growth potential is immense. If you look at and that is just retail. Then if you look at institutional money, we've just started to scratch the surface this year. Crypto has been around for over a decade now. We've just started to scratch the surface this year on institutional money coming in. So how is that going to drive the price of some of the cryptocurrencies? There's no limit. How is that going to drive or accelerate the adoption of cryptocurrencies in mainstream? Again, it's going to be faster than any other adoption that we've seen before, in my opinion. So when you have that kind of, that part of the pie chart that is still not into crypto, and you couple that with regulation to protect the users and to protect, because a lot of the sovereign wealth funds, that's people's money. They're not going to invest into something that does not have assurance for long-term gains, right? So once you have those regulations coming into play, that's a second aspect that would look into giving them more protection, giving them more assurance. And then you have the third one, where you have a political agenda now, where, again, not taking names, where some countries, well, actually, El Salvador has been pretty open about it. They have legalized, Bitcoin is a legal tender in the country. They have their reserves in Bitcoin in that country. If more countries begin to adopt that kind of strategic reserve mechanism, again, the price of Bitcoin, I don't know where it's going to reach.
Yeah, like we briefly talked about this, right? Yeah. So, a lot of, say, traditional TradFi monsters tap into the market since late last year or early this year. Since, like Bitcoin ETF, great news for the entire industry. So how do you look at this kind of, say, competitions between, Binance and those TradFi players? For example, like BlackRock enter the market, Van Eck or Franklin Templeton, right? As well as those players in the crypto industry already. How you guys react, or how you guys adopt this? Many TradFi players coming in.
I don't think competition is an issue. Again, like I said, there's enough cake for everyone to eat.
Agreed.
It's a huge cake, and we only chopped 1.5 or 2% off so far. So there's enough pie for everyone, right? That's one part. When it comes to, it's like when it comes to technology or engineering. This is a space that Binance has been good at. It's not just Binance. The industry that is there right now, like your traditional, but it is traditional. The traditional crypto players, they have built something over the course of the last decade or so. I mean, we are just 7 years old as a company ourselves. But there are other players who've been there longer, or some of them who have been there shorter, but have built products for the consumers that they cater to. you have your BlackRocks, you have the traditional finance firms. Their intent as of now is to serve the current users with a new asset class. There's a difference. Are they going to be building new products for them based off the crypto? Who knows? Maybe they can. And again, there's enough room for everyone to grow. There's enough space for everyone to grow. I don't see them as competition because you still have very few players. But I think with the regulation that comes in and with every bear market, bull market that comes in and goes, you will see that just the cream de la creme will stay on top. The rest will disappear. Like you had with the financial crisis, you had a lot of small little asset managers disappear. With the dot-com bubble, you had a lot of that. So you will get rid of all the junk in every bear market. A lot of people will disappear, but the ones that stay and survive, those are the ones that'll stay till the end.
Yeah, luckily we're still here after 9 years, and I was kind of surprised. You just remind me, Binance is just 7 years old.
Yep.
And that's crazy. Think about this. The probability and the transaction value and the user count is around like 240 something million
245
users worldwide, right? So it's amazing, right? So, okay, because I just saw the news recently. You guys announced a partnership with Circle, USDC.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
a huge one, right?
It's huge.
So, yeah, but we see USDC native stablecoin in Binance.com for a long time. So what does this mean? Like strategical partnership with Circle.
We have strategic partnerships with a lot of stablecoins, and for us, we really do believe stablecoins are a critical part of the crypto industry. So we have partnership with USDC, with Circle, with USDC, with USDT, and even FDUSD are some of the ones that we work very closely with. And it just gives you a lot more perks when you use USDC as a stablecoin on a platform. That's one. And it just gives them a lot more alignment. And USDC being one of the most compliant stablecoins in the world that's there right now, and they have a huge growth potential across the different markets that we operate in as well. So it just makes it easier for us to partner with someone who is working the same markets as we are and are as compliant as we are. So that's the part of the partnership. But stablecoins as a whole for us is extremely important. It's a critical part of the ecosystem, and we want to continue to build and work with more stablecoin partners down the road as well.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of stablecoin, so I used to be a huge fan of Argo stablecoin. Argo is a stablecoin because I was an engineer, right? So I was looking for the perfect mechanism which can make 100% decentralized stablecoin, but it's so difficult. A lot of experiments, a lot of tries, but I think at the end of the day, someone will get there. But not just that pure decentralized stablecoin, as well as those asset-backed or year-bearing stablecoins. Very interesting, right? So we can see stablecoins is getting more and more important nowadays in the space.
Yep.
So, okay. So the next one,
There is another, I think even Paxos has a few yield-bearing stablecoins as well. And I think they've got licensed in some markets. But there are tons of them out there. Exactly. And the ones that you work with are the ones that you want to make sure that have the potential to last the distance like you did. So we've been working with a few of them, like I mentioned. USDC is one of them. We've been working with FDUSD and even USDT over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah, I saw that FDUSD integrate with us, maybe Sui blockchain or something recently. I was very happy because we invest very heavily in Sui. So, yeah, and I actually want to know more about, because you've been talking to a lot of different regions, authorities, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, like APAC, for example, Middle East, for example, North American. So, can you give us an idea of so I'm sure some founders and builders or people in the industry are here. So if you want to do something in the industry for crypto or blockchain, which jurisdiction or which area should we go and is more friendly potentially?
You're going to get me in trouble with the regulators, aren't you?
It's just high level general.
See, again, it's something that I keep telling, even as an ex-regulator or within Binance, I keep telling the different projects. You have to go to a market or a jurisdiction that is open to accept your business in the crypto space. Now, if you're a fund manager and you want to raise funds, obviously you should be where capital is readily available, right? So you want to work with sovereigns and large cap institutions that are based out of the Middle East, for example, in Abu Dhabi. If you want to go and start a project that has in a jurisdiction that does not have regulations yet, for example, In the UAE, you have another emirate that is trying to attract only projects because they haven't created regulations around DeFi yet. So and they have good incentives for these kind of projects set up shop there, and they give you visas, they give you housing, they give a lot of perks. Tax is another issue that you want to look at. Consumer base. Where can I get the largest consumer base? If you look at the Southeast Asian markets, Indonesia is ripe, Thailand is ripe, Taiwan is ripe. So these are markets where you have a huge population that you have access to. If you look at India, that's 1.4 billion people. It's like crazy numbers. Where do you want to set up? How do you want to set up? And at what cost? Now, you want to set up in India, you have to pay those taxes. You want to set up in other places, you want to pay those taxes. So you have to find out at what stage of growth your project is at, be it a fund manager, be it layer 1, layer 2, it's a Web3, DeFi, whatever it is. You have to find out what stage of growth your project is at, which jurisdiction actually makes perfect sense for that stage, and where can you what's the platform where you can take off from. A lot of companies that are set up in Dubai, for example, it's tax-free. Yep. They're startups. You start with like 4 or 5 people, and it's a platform for them to then take off from and serve the surrounding markets, and you can travel to various places across the map within 6 hours. Yep. So it makes sense for a lot of those people to start there. But for people who are based in India or people who are based in Latin America, they have enough of a market there. They're happy. They're happy to serve those markets, and that's it. They don't want to go any further. That's it. They're content. But if you want to be a global player, international player, then you have to look at one of these international markets like Singapore, UAE, or something else.
Yeah, I agree on the views. So, for example, right, I'm in Bay right now. So if I want to look for, say, brilliant AI funders or those investors who's like so good at the AI investments. So here's the Silicon Valley, right? And if you want to do something, say animes or games or something, you probably go to Korea or Japan in Asia, right? And like you mentioned, if you want to raise fund, go Singapore or Abu Dhabi, Dubai, right? So yeah, I mean, I'll hit it up. I'll be there.
I'll make introductions, don't worry.
Please. So yeah, maybe the last question. Let's get back to the bull market. So right now, as you guys know, we are in the middle of the bull market right now. I would say it's like already 30%, 40% in my opinion.
He's saying it. I'm not saying it. I'm not making any
non-financial advices. By the way,
I want the next thing you know, it'll be on Twitter. Vishal made this prediction. We're in a bull market. No, we're not. I have no idea what a bull market looks like. I take the fifth.
Yeah, this is bull market. Yeah, just. No, okay, I talk too much. So okay. I just want to know your personal take, in bull market, what makes you excited, on the personal level or, on the exchange level, yeah. But nothing financial advices,
Thank you. I think we should have a ticker over here or something. What makes me excited? My parents are old. My dad just hit 80 last month. When talking to my parents, when they ask you, so what's Bitcoin? When you hear that question from someone who didn't care what you were doing for a living for the last couple of years, and they just hear this Bitcoin thing, and they know you're doing something in crypto, and they've seen that logo that you work for somewhere in city, yeah, that's when I think, okay, we are in a place where everyone on the street is talking about crypto, everyone on the street is talking about Bitcoin, and there is this fear of missing out. Should we be investing? Should we not be investing? And this is something that I feel that our industry hasn't been doing enough about, is the education piece. And when I say education, it's not just the education to the consumer base. It's education to the governments, to the regulators, to the law enforcement agencies, to the corporates. It's everything, the entire ecosystem that you want to bring along. Because if you look at crypto over the last 10 years, it's only been retail, right? So now when you want these banks and all the VCs and all of them to come in and participate, there has to be a lot more education for them to understand what it is. So on a personal level, I think that education piece now taking off, that I can actually sit and explain to people, to elderly, so this is what I do, this is what Bitcoin is. It's something that you need to understand and learn about, and before that, don't put your money in without you understanding it. On a professional level, I think with the current market sentiment, or the fact that other regulators globally have now taken a positive stand towards crypto, or the recent elections that happened in the US. I think professionally you have a lot more people now who are interested in learning about crypto, interested in doing something about it, and how can they bring that ecosystem into their jurisdictions? How can they retain the talent pool that they have? Like if you look at Taiwan especially, you have a young community, you have now a pro-crypto regulator who wants to understand and do something about it. You have amazing talent, like developers. You have crazy amounts of developers here. So now instead of them flying the coup and running anywhere else, you built an ecosystem as a government. You've built an ecosystem for them to sit here, stay in the country, keep the talent here, and thrive. So that's for me, from a professional level, it's exciting for me that, you know what, I can add more value to this ecosystem here in Taiwan. So it's huge. It's huge implications in this current market.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to, previously, last cycle, it was Tesla buying Bitcoins, and this cycle, I think ETF really pushed the industry forward. So, yeah, it's like a lot more easy, I would say, so back then we're trying to talk to, say, authorities or something, traditional VCs, and this year, they all come back to me.
Yeah,
it's like almost 180 different.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to reach out to them anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll come to you.
And then that's real, and that's how you close the deal, right? So you always
exactly. And we're seeing the same thing from the regulatory side, right? Before it was us, hey, we want to think about, you have a good opportunity here. Do you want to create some kind of regulation to help? They're like, eh. And now they reach out to us. They're like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. This is a consultation paper. Can you have a look at it? Can you have a read? Like, sure, happy to help. Whatever works. And you have to draw that line as a regulator. See, innovation will always outpace regulation, no matter what. But the regulators that kind of get it and kind of are agile to kind of swing to the tides and make sure that they have regulations in place that are smart, that are innovative, and are agile as well, they're the ones who are going to win. Those are the jurisdictions that are going to win at the end. So you can see that trend now with the regulators saying, no, we'll keep this a little vague so that, when things happen, we can move around and we let the industry decide. We'll let the self-regulatory organizations, them decide. Let them decide on how they want to drive that industry forward. And when there's a problem, we'll step in. But until then, you guys do your thing, we'll do our thing, and we'll see how it works within the industry. And it's a good way of looking at things. As long as they're always in touch with the industry, as long as they always keep that, call Vishal on speed dial and just ask him, hey, what's happening here? Should we do something about this now? As long as they're happy to have those conversations, you'll always see the ecosystem drive.
All right, that's fantastic. All right, I think we should wrap it up. Very fruitful conversation, and first time here to Taiwan. Welcome to Taipei. My hometown. So yeah, let's give another round of applause to Vishal. First time to Taiwan.
Thank you. I had my first experience at bubble tea. I couldn't even finish the full thing. It's so heavy, seriously.